Rev up your engines! Today I'm going to talk about illegal modifications to your car that can make it run faster. People have always been modifying their cars. Some of these modifications are legal in some states, illegal in others. Now the first modification has to do with removing mufflers from a car. Now when your engine's running, it burns gasoline. The exhaust comes out the exhaust manifold, goes down the pipes, the back of the car. Then it passes through the catalytic converter, where unburned hydrocarbons are burned. Then it goes further down through the muffler. And in my own silica, there's the muffler here. It's right in the back. That's the original muffler of this car too. It's amazing. Now, like most car parts, the muffler is named for what it does. It muffles sounds. The loud noise of the engine explosions go through various baffles that it hits, which quiets it down. Then it comes out the back. But mufflers, besides muffling sound, they also create some back pressure, some resistance to your exhaust gas freely flowing out so your engine can breathe in and breathe out as fast as possible. Realize that basically your car's engine's a giant air pump. It's sucking as much air as it can and it's pumping the burned gases out as fast as it can to be more efficient, to run faster, and to just work better. To some extent, a muffler does reduce the power of your vehicle. That's why you don't see mufflers on race cars. And of course, it's why race cars make so much noise. Now, it used to be all the piston airplanes. They didn't have mufflers either. That's why when you hear them flying overhead, you can hear "Rah." Well, in Europe now, they've made very stringent noise regulations for small airplanes with propellers. And even they are starting to have small mufflers that have less baffles on them. They reduce the noise a little, but they also reduce the power. So if you remove the muffler, you will have a freer flowing engine exhaust, which means it can suck air in better, burn it, and throw the waste gas out as efficiently as possible. But in doing so, you're often breaking the law. But the law is different in all states. For example, in California, a vehicle can't make more than 95 decibels. In New York State, the limit is 15 decibels. You guess you could have louder cars in California legally than you can in New York State. While here in Texas, there is no actual decibel limit. It just says that your vehicle can't make excessive or unusual noises. Leaves things kind of open there. What is excessive, and certainly what is unusual? I guess you can't have a car that honks like a goose. But that leaves a lot of parameters. I hear a lot of loud cars around here. Nobody seems to bother them. And lately I've seen a lot of really loud Ferraris and Porsches. In my neighborhood, as it's becoming yuppified, a lot of them backfire because they don't have them tuned up right and they rev them up high and they're shifting and they backfire. A car should not backfire. If you do take a muffler off of your vehicle, you gotta make sure that that thing is tuned up and running perfectly, set perfectly, because if it isn't, you're gonna get a bunch of backfires. The muffler will also slow down some backfiring. I mean, if you got a big gas leak inside the fuel injectors and it's dumping raw fuel in the exhaust, it's gonna backfire then too. But a normally running engine, if it isn't perfectly set up without a muffler, they do have a tendency to backfire more. So if you just remove a muffler and your car isn't set up right for that flow, it may not run right. And of course, since it's illegal in most places because of the noise it's going to make, they're all going to make too much noise on a regular gasoline engine. They make a lot of noise if you take the muffler off. Your whole system's based on oxygen sensors, catalytic converters, and if you remove the muffler, then you're going to have a higher flow, and that can often mess with the software and the readings from the oxygen sensors and the working of the catalytic converter, because the catalytic converter actually has to store a little oxygen inside to burn the hydrocarbons, and if it's flowing too fast, it can't store anything and it won't work right. So then you'd be breaking the pollution laws. Now, I've had people in the past say, "Hey Scotty, oh, you got to have a muffler in your car because you need that back pressure." Well, if you're driving a 4-stroke engine, that's not true. You don't need any back pressure. They're not made to need back pressure. But speaking of back in the past, when I was a young mechanic, there were a lot of 2-stroke motorcycles. There were even 2-stroke cars like the Saab Sonnet. That was a bizarre V4 2-stroke engine that the Swedes made. Now, because of the difference in a 2-stroke engine versus a 4-stroke, the 2-stroke engines really need a certain type of pressure in their exhaust system. In the motorcycles, they call them expansion chambers. If you look at one of those old 60s or early 70s two-stroke motorcycles, you see they have these big expansion chambers on the exhaust. That was so that they would create a certain amount of pressure so the two-stroke engine could run right, because two-stroke engines are completely different. They don't have the four-stroke of the intake, compression, ignition, exhaust. They're just two, and their gas mingles in the engine as it runs. That's one reason they pollute a lot more. But with those, you take off the exhaust system of a two-stroke motorcycle engine, it'll run like crap. But that has absolutely no bearing on a four-stroke modern car. Take off the muffler, yep, you can make it go faster if you tune it up right, but you will be breaking all kinds of laws. And here in the United States especially, you'd be breaking federal pollution laws, because if you did it and someone tested it on a machine, they probably find out that it's putting out more pollution than it should, because getting rid of that back pressure changed how the anti-pollution system worked. So now another way, legal and illegal at the same time, using nitrous oxide to boost the power of an engine. There's all kinds of nitrous setups. There's wet ones where it comes in wet mixed with the fuel. There's dry ones where it comes in by itself. But basically they're all made to boost the power of your engine. You can make a little bitty four-cylinder engine put out 40, 50 more horsepower. You get a big old V8 engine, you can end up adding hundreds of horsepower to it. Their legality is kind of in no man's land, depending upon where you live. I got friends in Australia. They said New South Wales, it's totally illegal. You can't have a nitrous oxide system on your car for street driving. Where in Great Britain, there's no restriction on using these nitrous oxide systems, other than you have to tell your insurance company. They're going to jack up your insurance rates because they know you're making it a faster car. Where in South Carolina in the United States, you can legally have a nitrous oxide system on your vehicle, but you can't have the tank opened to use the system while you're driving on the street. They have it so you can have it on your car, and you can take your car to a racetrack and do it, or go on a dirt road and do it. But on legal streets that you're driving, you can't have the tank opened up. And since if the tank's closed, it doesn't put any boost, you're not boosting anything. Which of course leads to guys hiding tanks and hiding the whole system so nobody can see it. But in the state of Nebraska, it's completely legal. You can have it on a streetcar, and if you get pulled over for speeding, you'll get a speeding ticket, but they will not give you an extra ticket for having a nitrous oxide system hooked up to the car. I mean, nitrous oxide works. It's used as an oxidizer in rocket engines. So I mean, this stuff does work. Of course, there's only a limited amount you can have. It doesn't last all that long. But when you do open it up and inject it into the system, woo! Now, of course, in the long run, it will have detrimental effects on your engine. When I was young, a lot of guys put them in, and they were always blowing their engines. They'd blow the head gaskets. Sometimes they'd even blow the heads. Each engine is designed to accept a certain amount of power. And if you go over that limit, it will blow up. That's just the way that it goes. Now, the last modifications I'm going to talk about can be illegal, but they can really make your vehicle go faster, is the use of larger, higher flowing fuel injectors on your engine. The fuel injectors on your car, the four here, they're designed to get the maximum amount of both fuel economy and power for a certain size engine. So if you put in fuel injectors that have a higher flow rate, now you'll probably have to put a bigger fuel pump on it too to pump the extra fuel. You can get more fuel into the engine quicker, and it can increase the power that it puts out. Now, the main reason that this would be illegal is because it's drastically going to change the pollution coming out the tailpipe. Unless you had a complete pro who knew how to reprogram your computer and set it up so that it wasn't polluting more. If you put bigger injectors on and set the car up to run with those bigger injectors, and of course you're going to get a worse gas mileage because you're pumping more fuel in, but if you really wanted to do something like that, they make various injectors for various cars, and you would have to find a mechanic, or if you're a real computer whiz and knew how to program computers and understand air-fuel ratios, you could try to reprogram your computer so that it would accept these new injectors. Now, if you've got a common car out there like a Mustang or a Camaro or Dodge Charger, there's lots of guys that do that kind of stuff. You can go on the internet, you can see their advice, tell you what to do. And I know with my old Triumph motorcycle, it's fuel injected too. There's a British site that the guy gives away all the information free. You just hook up the scan tool. He gives you the information of how you should reprogram certain aspects of the computer software to make those bigger injectors work, and away you go. There's a lot of guys out there that are into speed, love sharing their information with everyone else. But then again, realize these guys are going for speed. A lot of times you do something like that, it's not going to pass any pollution tests. For example, on my Triumph motorcycle here in Texas, they don't test motorcycles for pollution when they're inspected each year. So it's not like you got to worry that it's going to make an emissions test, because they don't emission test motorcycles here in Texas. So ultimately, if you're going to do any of these modifications, you want to check with your local laws and see how things work in your area. But if you find that a certain thing is legal in your area, or it's not illegal, go ahead. Just realize, as the saying goes, speed is just a question of money. How fast do you want to go? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.